In the words of the late George Carlin, BS is the glue that binds us together as a nation. Here comes a ton of it. It's time for BSing with Big Nate.
There's garbage on TV, the lights flicker at me, but I surrender to the pace. Punch me up ahead, pull off some needles, take a good whiff. 'Cause I'm just trying to be in touch again. I'm just trying to be in touch again. I'm just trying to be in touch again. I'm just trying to be in touch again.
That was Katie Knipp with Chamomile and Cocaine, out June the 12th. And as she said in the track, here she is, world. She's coming at you. Katie, how are you today?
I'm wonderful, thanks. How are you?
I can't complain. It's the dead middle of summer and not really thrilled with the heat, but I'll live. Yeah. I'll survive.
The heat kind of puts me in a mood, too. I'm like, oh, everything's harder in the heat.
Let's say, you're out in California, correct?
Yes.
What is the weather like there?
It's an average of about 97 on any given day in the summer.
All right.
Sometimes we have heat waves of a week or so where it's over 100.
A little perspective for those of us in the New River Valley who are dealing with 91 being like our top line. I just wanted to go ahead and get that before we moved any further. Promise you, this is not a weather report. We're going to talk about your music. This is, of course, BSing with Big Nate, and and the privilege of going on vacation last week. So this is first week back, and we're getting started with some blues action. Of course, this weekend would have been Floydfest if COVID-19 didn't happen. So I figured we're going a little different direction this weekend. Get some blues, get some soul, get a little different out here. So I want to start with that track, Chamomile and Cocaine. I love it, and it's like
Thank you.
It's almost, and this is an adjective, and a lot of people may not like it, but I'm a big fan of it because it describes some of my favorite music. But it's almost got like a swampy feel to it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I'm all about the swamp.
Like it very much embodies that. And of course, you're out in California, but it feels like it came straight out of like Louisiana somewhere.
Thank you.
So
I take that as a huge compliment.
good. Thank you. I'm so glad because like I always feel hesitant, but it's just it just drips with swagger. And I'm a big fan.
Nice.
But I got to
Thanks.
ask, how did you get your start?
My start. Well, start as an independent artist or just in music in general?
Your background all around, how you got
Okay.
into music, where you started, and how you decided, hey, I'm going to branch out, I'm going to do my thing.
All right. So clarinet in the 4th grade. Then I decided I was way too much of a ham, so I switched to vocals in the 5th grade. And I was always singing for people, and all through high school, you know, doing all the solos and musicals and stuff. But then I thought I had to be a practical gal going into college, so I was like, okay, I guess I'm gonna major in medicine because that makes money. And so, but I still had a choir class on my schedule. So I walk into choir class, and they were doing Mozart's Requiem, which is one of the most beautiful pieces of music ever. I listen to all kinds of music. Anyway, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I actually started to cry, realizing I love music way too much not to let it fully be my path. So I chose instead to major in music, knowing my whole life would be probably more challenging than if I had a typical career in the medical field, you know. So I started teaching myself guitar, and when you major in music, you have to get pretty strong in piano as well. My focus was voice, so I actually was singing opera. They were very strict about singing classical, so I actually had to sneak a second voice teacher on the side to do the belty blues mama stuff in a safe way, because I'm all about vocal health. And you read all these stories about singers getting vocal notes because they weren't taught properly, or you see bands on tour in their 3rd month where the lead singer is like, you know, he's got half the voice he started with on the tour. So I'm all about getting stronger and stronger and stronger vocally. So that was really important to me. But the instruments sort of caught up with the voice over time, and about 10 years ago, I fell completely in love with slide guitar, and that further morphed my love for blues into being 100% blues Americana instead of more of a folk artist, which I think I started out as 20 years ago. I wasn't quite sure who I was and what I loved the most, but now I know exactly what's doing. I've released 5 albums. I'm recording my 6th album, and having a ball amidst COVID.
Hey, I mean, I'm all about silver linings, so it's nice to find other people who are finding those silver linings and working on stuff. You brought up something interesting there that I've noticed I want to touch on a little bit, is the vocal health. A friend of mine, he fronts a pretty well-known band from Charlottesville, and he was classically trained in opera, and he's told me the exact same thing, that they're very much stick to opera. You can't, and he had to do the exact same thing, get a he flat out called it a secret vocal coach to
Yeah,
go ahead and work.
we have to keep those things a secret.
Do you still do opera? I'm guessing probably not.
Every day.
Every day.
Every
Ooh,
day,
Lordy.
I do my hardcore vocal warm-ups, which does include classical stuff. But nobody hears it. It's a secret. So now that's a secret. Um,
So
but
with
yeah,
that,
every single-
do you think you were more prepared? Because I mean, blues Americana is known for some more. I mean, flat out, the vocals are more raw. There's
yeah,
definitely more emotion. It's not coming from necessarily a purely trained perspective. I mean, you look at the early artists, Howlin' Wolf.
oh yeah,
I mean, they weren't pretty vocals, and that was part of the
right.
passion. That was part. It was more emotive. So, do you think the opera helped, kind of gear you? Be like, well, if I can do that, I can do this.
Um, Only in the sense that I can remain strong as a vocalist in general. But honestly, when I first got out of college, it took a number of years to figure out who I was as a singer and what my sound was. Because when you spend all this time studying an instrument, no matter what it is, you tend to get so wrapped up in the details and the technique that you do kind of lose some emotion. And so I think it takes a lot of digging deep spiritually to get back to raw. So I feel like it took me quite a long time actually to come full circle that way. Because my goal is always to be as genuine as possible. And I definitely think I lost some of that when I first got out of college, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you can teach good habits, you can teach bad habits, but it's really hard to unlearn a habit.
Yeah.
And so you get in that pattern. So I'm always intrigued by particularly the vocal process because it's such a different, with an instrument, you can tune it, but you can't really necessarily do that with your voice. It requires training, patience, muscle, so it's always something that's fascinated me. I do
Me
want to
too.
ask, what are your influences? Like, who do you draw from when you're writing, when you're playing? Because you said you have pretty eclectic music taste.
Yeah. One of my favorite artists is the late great Nina Simone. Because I do play piano. That's actually more comfortable for me even than guitar. And anybody that has their own true voice. So, for example, almost every night lately, I've just been winding down to Bruce Springsteen's Nebraska album. I think it's one of the greatest albums ever. It just draws you into those stories. And then Son House is a huge influence to me, as far as slide guitar and the way he approaches his playing and his attack. And who else? I love all the New Orleans piano players like Alan Toussaint and Dr. John, both dead. Both I got to meet though. So I am heavily influenced by New Orleans artists. John Cleary, he's luckily still alive. And then, yeah, as far as vocals and gosh, and then there's these amazing writers like Father John Misty. I'm blown away by his writing.
Yeah, I love Father John Misty. He does some incredible stuff.
It's so fantastic, In fact, I went to the Grammys this past year, and on an interview, someone asked me, like, do you get starstruck? And I was like, no. And they were like, so there's nobody that you could have run into that you would have flipped out a little? And I said, I take that back. Father John Misty. totally in love with the guy.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan. It's kind of been a recent development for me. I grew up on a lot of what we listened to. My stepdad's favorite band was The Doors. So, I mean, the foundation was right there sitting in front of me. We listened to The Doors, CCR. And in recent years, kind of went away to college and kind of discovered the blues, Americana, folk. And there's so much out there. And yeah, I think Father John Misty in 2020 is really just kind of carrying the flag to a certain degree. And I'm a huge fan.
Yeah. Me too.
So,
Have you seen his videos?
I get so busy. Like I've always got music playing in the background when I work. The only video I've actually like sat down and watched because it was for work. It was his cover of a Nine Inch Nails song. I think it might've been Hurt.
Okay. I'm going to
No.
send you video links because he's
Yes.
made hilarious videos. Full on just, I'll send you links.
Speaking of videos, there is another one I watched fairly recently that stood out to me. Are you familiar with Shaky Graves?
Absolutely. Yeah. I love them.
The videos he does, there's quite a few. I mean, it's obviously just kind of him chilling out for the most part, but he does these crazy things. It was a video series he did with Audio Tree where he was basically doing the one-man band thing. He had a suitcase drum. I think it was a snare, not a bass, but I could be wrong. And I love that musicianship. I love that ability to make it work like solo, make it work on your own. And I feel like with your music writing and everything, that's kind of kit and caboodle how you make it work. But
yes,
I do have to ask, what's the writing to recording process for you?
I keep a journal of lyric ideas, and I also use my phone notes memo thing if I don't have a pen and paper handy for lyrics. And then I'll usually come up with some sort of lick on piano or guitar to kind of center the song around, and then build off that. And then I look at my lyric ideas and see, okay, well, does the vibe of this lick fit with any of those stories? And if there's a match there, then I'll start to, like, I'll literally write a chorus part in a nucleus, and then I'll spider out verses. So it actually looks like a spider on the page. So I'll stem out different sub-stories to the main story. And just kind of finish it out that way. So I always start with a chorus part and a lick and then grow from there.
Excellent. I'm always intrigued by the songwriting process because I'm completely tone deaf. I know what I think sounds good, but if you put me in front of an instrument, it's usually like I can play the Jaws theme on piano and I can play the Halloween theme, and that's about where it ends because it's simple 3 notes, or in Jaws it's like 2. So it's always intriguing to me to see how people piece it together, because it always becomes a collage, and knowing what works and doesn't work. It blows my mind. And obviously you've put in a lot of labor, a lot of love. And I mean, I can say this. This is a proud moment for me. You are my first Billboard charting artist to come on BS
really?
with Big Eight.
Thanks.
So I want to ask, what does that feel like? Like when you think about all the work and the passion that went into it, how does something like that feel?
It was amazing. I'll never forget getting that first email from Billboard saying, hey, we need to verify your UPC code and stuff because you're most likely charting next week. And I almost had a heart attack. I actually had to take a bath to calm down. And when I did finally wake up that morning to look, at first I couldn't find it because it's sort of a niche chart. My goal was to get on the Heat Seekers chart, which is for like new artists and stuff. So I couldn't find it. I'm looking, and my husband shoves his phone screen in my face and says, you're number 10 on the blues albums charts. And like right underneath me or around me was Kenny Wayne Shepherd and all these people that were way more famous than me. And I almost had a freaking heart attack because I was also on Heat Seekers. I was number 9 there. But to get on that blues albums chart was completely unexpected. You know, you focus on this goal and you go for that goal and you don't picture what else is going to happen. And so a minute later, I didn't have time to completely flip out because a minute later I was cleaning up my kids' vomit. I remember like scrubbing vomit off the floor he was 1.5 or something. Yeah. And I was like just in this dreamland while scrubbing up vomit because it's just this double life I'm leading. I have two little kids. And
no, we had our first kid back in September of 2019, and that's the one thing I've realized is like, well, thank you. That's one of the things I've realized is kids are definitely there to keep you humble.
Yeah, you're in the trenches of parenthood. That's for sure. You know?
There's a certain degree of like, man, all this cool stuff I do at work, and yep, still wiping poop off your butt. Fantastic. No, I wouldn't change a minute of it though.
Me neither. It's amazing. I'll never forget waking up one morning and knowing I had a really big show and that night, and I woke up super excited, and at the time he was 3. He came up to my bedside. It was like 6:30 in the morning, and I go, Mommy has a big show tonight. And he goes, you smell like old mac and cheese. I was like, all right.
Put things in perspective. Might need a shower before the show.
Humble.
No, it's the best. I mean, that's definitely put things in perspective for me. I've got to ask, what's on the horizon? Of course, 2020 being a weird year. I know a lot of plans have been put on hold. I know a lot of people are kind of just counting down to 2021, which is the weirdest thing that we're rooting for time to pass. But
yeah,
what's on your horizon? What are you looking ahead to?
Well, I'm looking forward to having the right label fit join my team, the right record label. Because I'll just be frank, I laid out my budget for this next album, and in order to do things the right way, because I'm not somebody that just records in my bedroom and spews it out. Like, I like a high quality studio, my band, special guest musicians, blah, blah, blah. So my budget's $20,000. And I'm not going to use our money. I'm a mom, you know? So, minimum, you know, that's like if I get it done myself and release it myself, I know exactly what to do with every line item of money. But, so I'm really thinking a record label that would fit my genre would be a smart thing for everybody right now, because I've come this far independently. Now it's just a matter of who wants to get on this train, because it's rolling no matter what, you know, whether I get an investor to help with this or a label. Like, we're barreling down the tracks. And so I'm using this time to fully market this new single. I just finally got on Pandora. I was rejected by them like 5 times. They only accept 3% of artists. So it was kind of a big deal. And so I'm working on things like Spotify campaigning and things that I didn't have time to do when I was gigging. So just my focus has shifted a little bit more towards the business end. And really I'm doing a few live streams here and there, and I'm finishing writing this album, but I'm definitely trying to build my business team up to be ready for when this COVID thing's done, you know?
You know, I love when I hear artists talk about business. It cracks me up, because I know at the end of the day, you didn't get into music because you wanted to do PR and branding, and you got into music because you love music. So it always cracks me up. But I've also noticed that artists are some of the most cunning business people I've seen interact with. But it's a tricky, like, what's shopping for a label look like?
I have an agency working for me, but really you have to have all of your own ducks in a row, in the sense that you have to have a lot of press already. You have to have a lot of music released already. You have to have awards and accolades, in my opinion, for anybody to care. Because a typical label will get, you know, boxes and boxes of things. And so you have to stand out. You have to know that you're a needle in a haystack, and therefore you've got to poke people with that needle. So, you know, it's years and years built up of just getting that web presence going, you know, and the name recognition and all that stuff in order for anybody to take notice. You have to do all the work first. You kind of have to be your own label first for a label to really care, I think.
Gotcha. So that brings us, you brought up the web presence. That brings us to an important question. Where can they find Katie Knipp on the web?
Oh, yeah. Well, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Pandora, iTunes, Apple Music. Just type in my name. KatieKnipp.com is my main website. You can always browse there for reading in depth and, you know, catching videos and tour dates and things like that. But any kind of platform you use, I'm on. KatieKnipp.
Katie Knipp, Chamomile and Cocaine out now. Thank you so very much for joining me. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure as well.
Are you sick and tired of using those cheap, smelly blue masks? They always seem to break, and no matter what you try to do and fix it, it just doesn't work. Plus, they look horrendous, and they never fit quite right.
There's gotta be a better mask!
Now there is! Introducing the new limited edition 105.3 The Bear Mask. This 2-ply eco-friendly face cover is washable and reusable. And the best part about the new 105.3 The Bear Mask is that 100% of the proceeds benefit the Southwest Virginia COVID-19 Response Force. Get your new limited edition 105.3 The Bear Mask today.